And we're starting with WWE, who will return to Riyadh for WWE Crown Jewel next month, and the company typically stacks these shows with as much top-tier talent as possible. In the past, WWE has ensured that their entire roster is available if needed by not running any shows the same day as a Saudi event, but things are much different this time. It's been confirmed that on November 4th, the same day as Crown Jewel, a WWE live event will take place in New York, with talent already being announced for that show. Intercontinental Champion Gunther will defend against Ricochet and Shinsuke Nakamura at the event, while NXT Women's Champion Becky Lynch will take on Tiffany Stratton, and Women's Champion Io Sky will put the gold on the line against Charlotte Flair. Other names advertised for the show include Carlito, Grayson Waller, the Street Profits, Omos, Kofi Kingston, and the Brawling Brutes, which would prevent them from appearing at Crown Jewel. It's important to note that these match cards can change, but as of now, don't expect Gunther, Sky, Lynch, or anyone else advertised for the New York show to make the trip to Riyadh. Over the past year, WWE has undergone drastic changes, from the retirement and return of Vince McMahon to the acquisition by Endeavor and launch of TKO Group Holdings. Now McMahon is out of WWE's creative team, an edict by Ari Emanuel himself, but it appears one man is immune from the changes consuming WWE: Roman Reigns. Fightful Select reports that Reigns and the Bloodline have been immune from changes, with his angles, just like in previous years, being produced by Michael Hayes. Hayes was also behind this week's tag title change on Raw, which saw the Bloodline's Jimmy Uso interfere, as well as the Raw promo from former Bloodline member Sami Zayn. The Freebird is tasked with any and all segments related to the Bloodline, and the report also looked into the recent push of LA Knight. While some have said that Knight is only getting a chance to shine because McMahon is out of creative, sources told Fightful that Knight's push was planned before Vince's exit from the creative team. Vince McMahon's exit from creative has already seen major changes on TV, including the recent reunion of DIY, an idea McMahon himself nixed over the summer. WWE's creative team is said to be much more relaxed now that McMahon is no longer able to meddle, and as for Roman Reigns, he'll still be treated as the top star, no matter who's making the decisions. On this week's Dynamite, Sting announced that he will wrestle his last match at AEW Revolution 2024, but while this was a huge announcement, the crowd was nowhere near as big. As has become the norm for AEW events, the crowd was worryingly small, with AEW moving fans to the hard cam so that the show looked jam-packed, but fan-recorded footage reveals how bad it was. AEW likely booked Sting's retirement match on a pay-per-view, as they typically garner bigger crowds than AEW's weekly TV, to avoid this embarrassment for the icon during his final match. But what do you think of AEW Dynamite having another worryingly low attendance, and that Sting made his announcement to dozens of empty seats? Sound off in the comments. Right now, CM Punk is a free agent in the world of wrestling, and with WWE reportedly telling Punk they're not interested, many believe that Impact will be his next destination. Tomorrow night, Impact will host its annual Bound for Glory event from Punk's home state of Illinois, but could the best in the world be about to return to the promotion? When Sean Ross Sapp was asked about Punk joining Impact, he said that while many may scoff at the idea, Impact would welcome Punk, and added that he was great backstage when he visited earlier this year. WrestlePurist podcaster Ibu has revealed that Impact Wrestling reached out to Punk and threw the offer out there, but there's no word on whether Punk has accepted a deal. Punk may have burned his bridges with AEW and WWE, but the former world champion seems to be well liked at Impact, and even played a game of cards backstage with some of the talent. Impact may not be as big as WWE or AEW, but the company would instantly receive a ton of recognition if they can sign Punk. And do you hope to see it happen? Sound off in the comments. With Matt Riddle's time with WWE over, the former US champion will now have to re-establish himself out of the company, and hopes a new trademark filing will help with that. On October 18th, Riddle filed a trademark on the term King of Bros, which will be used specifically in the context of wrestling, and this was a nickname Riddle used in WWE. Riddle left WWE in a sea of controversy, especially after his claims of sexual harassment at JFK International were refuted, and who knows where the King of Bros will go next. As we mentioned earlier, there at one point was plans to reunite DIY earlier this year, but those plans were nixed by Vince McMahon. With WWE TV now following Triple H's creative direction, that reunion has happened, but it seems these plans were nixed on more than one occasion. During Insight, Tommaso Ciampa said he wishes he could count the amount of times it's been approved and then halted, only to get approved and then halted again. Ciampa recalled getting new DIY gear made, which made him feel like the reunion was going to happen, only to have plans paused, but thinks that it's great that it's seemingly finally happening on TV. Speaking about his current role on TV, Ciampa said he's a babyface underdog, and also has said that he has great chemistry with Johnny Gargano, but isn't opposed to a possible feud down the line. Above anything else, Ciampa wants main roster fans to see that NXT guy, who fans of the Gold brand were so hyped about, and show why they were right to be excited. Ciampa missed this week's Raw as he wasn't cleared for the show, but with DIY now a thing on TV, expect to see plenty more of the group, with Triple H running the show. On February 24th, WWE will host its Elimination Chamber event from the Optus Stadium in Perth, Australia, the first PLE Down Under since Superstar Showdown in 2018. Anticipation is already reaching fever pitch as Australia prepares for the massive show, and the 60,000 plus fans of the stadium will see one of their own headline the show. In a groundbreaking development, Australian news channel 7 News Adelaide reports that Rhea Ripley will headline Elimination Chamber in Perth, though no match has been announced yet. Headlining the show will be a remarkable journey for the Women's World Champion, considering her humble origins in the wrestling business that began 7 or so years ago in Adelaide. Elimination Chamber Perth is also poised to provide significant boosts to the Australian economy, making it a win-win situation for both wrestling enthusiasts and the country itself. There's still plenty of questions to be answered about the show, including who will be stepping into the titular chamber, and this isn't expected to be answered until we get closer to the event. What we do know is that Rhea Ripley will walk into Optus Stadium as a headliner, and who do you want to see close out the show with Ripley? Sound off in the comments below. Before Elimination Chamber Perth, WWE will kick off the road to WrestleMania 40 with the Royal Rumble, and getting tickets for the show in Tampa Bay, Florida has proven to be overwhelming. Pre-sale tickets for the 2024 WWE Royal Rumble went up yesterday on the MLB website, and tickets were in such high demand that the website experienced technical difficulties. The Rumble is one of the most exciting nights of the WWE calendar, so it's no wonder tickets are in demand. And were you able to snag seats for next year's show inside Tropicana Field? The Royal Rumble isn't the only show in high demand, as next month's Survivor Series event has proven to be quite the needle mover since tickets went on sale. In fact, tickets had already sold out for the show, which was set up to hold 12,558 fans, but now WWE has been able to add more tickets to the event. WrestleTix noted that WWE has expanded its setup to add 2,784 seats to the show, with the new layout for Survivor Series now holding 15,342 fans. This change will also affect the previous night's SmackDown, which will also be held in Chicago's Allstate Arena, and the show will feature a new stage setup to accommodate the extra seats. CM Punk is no longer expected to make his WWE return at the event, but that hasn't stopped fans trying to grab seats for Survivor Series, which has been more popular than WWE initially expected. During his WWE tenure, Samoa Joe held the US title and the NXT Championship, but despite the hopes of many, never became a WWE World Champion. On his Oh You Didn't Know podcast, Road Dogg recently said that Vince McMahon always prefers his babyface world champion, adding that something medical may have played a role in his booking. When Ringside News asked about this, WWE sources said there weren't any medical issues that meant Joe never won the WWE title, but insisted he just wasn't in line above others for the title. Samoa Joe had a lot of success in WWE but never became the top guy, and with Joe now hungry to become AEW World Champion, do you think a World Championship remains in his future? On this week's Dynamite, Darby Allin brawled with Nick Wayne after an interview between JR, Wayne, and Wayne's mom, but the young star suffered an injury fans may not have noticed. During Wrestling Observer Radio, it was revealed that Wayne chipped a tooth after going face first into the concrete, and it was chipped so badly it went to the nerve. That's why Wayne was spitting blood during this segment, and it's likely he was sent to the dentist to have some crown work or perhaps an implant in his tooth. Darby Allin was once a mentor to Wayne and helped him get a role with AEW, but after Wayne betrayed Allin at Wrestle Dream, we doubt the former TNT champion is all that broken up about Wayne and his tooth. As we reported in yesterday's AEW Dynamite coverage, Wardlow dominated on this week's show, winning with one powerbomb in an impressive display by Mr. Mayhem. Post-match, Wardlow pointed at MJF's name on his wrist tape before shoving Tony Schiavone away, and during Busted Open Radio, Bully Ray wasn't a fan of the change of tone for Wardlow. He explained, "Wardlow wins with one powerbomb. I liked it. I've been saying he's doing too much. Schiavone comes to the ring and he goes to talk to Wardlow, asks him why. Wardlow shows us the tape that says MJF. The people start to chant Wardlow's name and I'm like, ooh good, they're finally back on board. And then Wardlow bumps Schiavone and knocks him on his and the people started booing, and for the second time tonight I almost threw my phone at the freaking TV. You can't screw around with a guy like Wardlow. The last thing I remember from him tonight is he bumped Schiavone and everybody loves Schiavone, so I was a little taken back by it." Wardlow has had momentum and has had momentum derailed multiple times in AEW, and do you think Wardlow will be next in line to face MJF, or will AEW drop the ball, as we've seen happen in the past? When AEW Dynamite and WWE NXT went head-to-head last week, it was WWE who came out the winner, with the show scoring the third highest viewership since NXT came to the USA Network. By comparison, Dynamite scored its lowest viewership in 2 years, and while this on the surface seems like a clear win for NXT, Chris Jericho isn't so sure. Speaking on the Messenger, Jericho reflected on NXT scoring 921,000 viewers to Dynamite's 609,000 and explained why WWE shouldn't be celebrating this comfortable win. He said, "This would be like a football game where you bring in all of your top stars from years prior and beat the other team 30-26. It's like a video game. Let's bring in Tom Brady from 5 years ago and then play him for one game against Chris Jericho. Okay, you guys won, but you only won 30-26. So don't get too far up your own ass because you didn't do that good of a job as far as crushing us. And our show was better than theirs, quite frankly, so it doesn't bother me." Jericho is of course not the only name to try and downplay WWE's win, as Tony Khan has had plenty to say about NXT earning less than 1 million viewers, despite featuring John Cena and The Undertaker. Mark Henry had a much different take to Jericho when appearing on the Hall of Fame podcast, as he argued that there isn't a war between WWE and AEW at all. Instead, Henry suggested that the war for ratings is between wrestlers and any other channel, and that a good talent can keep fans from tuning into anything else, wrestling or not. AEW and WWE have been against each other for some time now, and while last week on paper shows a clear victory for NXT, Jericho and Khan believe things aren't as clear-cut as that. As an internationally recognized star, Mercedes Mone has fans across the world, and while many interactions are completely harmless, that isn't always the case. During an interaction at New York Comic-Con, Mone abrasively shut down a fan's questions about her WWE departure in 2022, and this heated exchange isn't an isolated incident. Speaking on her Eyes Up Here podcast, ECW original Francine spoke about hearing stories about Mone which didn't paint the New Japan star in a favorable light. She said, "Somebody last weekend told me that their son went up to Mercedes Mone at the airport, and this is a small kid, and she said, 'Get away from me,' and just kept walking. And Alexa Bliss apparently was behind her and said to the kid, 'What did she just say to you?' And the kid was like, 'She told me to get away from her.' And Alexa Bliss said, 'Don't worry about her, it's okay.' Like, she was nice to the kid. This is what I heard from the father. So, I hear that she can be snippy. I've never met her. I think she's a very, very talented worker. She's a great talent, but I hear a lot of negativity about the way she treats fans. You can't take away the work ethic, but you need to work on your personality a little bit." On the show, Francine also addressed Mone's interaction at Comic-Con and suggested that the former Sasha Banks should feel lucky that fans want to pay for her autograph. While Alexa Bliss was there to calm the young fan at the airport, they no doubt left feeling crushed by Mone. And what do you think to stories like these about Mercedes Mone? On this week's NXT, Brinley Reese replaced the injured Jakara Jackson in the NXT Women's Breakout Tournament, but would lose to the daughter of Santino Marella. On Wrestling Observer Radio, it was revealed that because Reese was a last-minute replacement, WWE didn't have any ring gear ready for her, and she was actually wearing Sol Ruka's ring gear. Ruka is currently out with an injury which required her to have surgery in May, so it's not like she needed the gear, and it's fortunate that she was able to lend the gear to Brinley Reese. Reese may have a bright future ahead of her in WWE, and although she won't be winning the 2023 Women's Breakout Tournament in NXT, she has quite a story to tell about her television debut. At WWE Fastlane, Declan McMahon, the son of Shane and grandson of Vince, appeared in the crowd holding a custom spinner belt for the Indiana Hoosiers. Declan plays for the team as a running back, but many predict he'll one day enter the family business, and when speaking to WU Online, the young McMahon didn't rule the idea out. "I'm never ruling it out. I would love to get in the ring a couple of times, but you would have to see if the opportunity presents itself. It's all about the story. We'll see. I think a lot of fans would get behind it if I ended up doing it. I think I would be pretty good at it. You never know, never ruling an option out. As for now, focusing on football and school, and we'll play it by ear." Fastlane wasn't Declan's first time on WWE TV, as he appeared as an infant during the opening package for WrestleMania 20, playing into the "Where It All Begins Again" theme of the show. Declan also walked to the ring with his brothers for his father's match at WrestleMania 32, but we'll have to see if McMahon one day walks down the ramp for a match of his own. Do you think we'll one day see the grandson of Vincent Kennedy McMahon step into the ring as a WWE superstar? Share your prediction in the comments. Now, Adam Copeland has been treated as one of AEW's biggest stars since arriving at WrestleDream, and has been thrust into a program with Christian Cage, but he also has a major role fans don't see behind the scenes. Speaking on the Battleground podcast, Copeland addressed his role with AEW's creative process, revealing that he is heavily involved. He explained, "Every process has its pros and cons, right? It's great to be involved to a heavy extent creatively. I've been lucky throughout the years, and producing, you're given some creative freedom. That's always great because as a performer, you have to be able to bite into what you're trying to produce out there. I've always said if there is some element of truth that the person behind the character can bite into, then the fiction should follow that truth, and that doesn't change. That's always treated the same, but it's nice to sit down and go, okay, how could this story play out? And being heavily involved in that, being involved on a week-to-week basis, that becomes more possible. It's not popping in every few months, that becomes hard. That becomes a hard process to be involved in a large creative way when it's just popping in and out like that." Copeland and Cage have yet to face off in AEW, but it's practically guaranteed at this point, and whatever's next for the Hall of Famer, expect plenty from Copeland both on-screen and backstage. It was in early 2023 that Jerry Lawler suffered a stroke that would result in him missing the Hall of Fame and having to induct Andy Kaufman via video. Sitting down with Sportskeeda this week, Lawler talked about his health and said that his voice isn't the same as it once was because of the stroke. While Lawler's voice isn't the same, it's come a long way from those early days after the stroke, and added that his speech and vocabulary made little sense in the days following what happened. Lawler is a legend in wrestling, but right now, his priority is making a full recovery, and we'd like to send the King our very best as he continues to get better. For some time, a Netflix documentary about Vince McMahon has been in the works, and now we have a clearer picture as to when fans can expect a release. Speaking on SI Media, Bill Simmons said it'll be coming out during the first part of 2024, and after such a unique life, the McMahon doc will no doubt make for a fascinating watch. For much of his AEW run, MJF has been a clear-cut heel, and has over the years mastered how to rile up a crowd. Earlier this year, Fuego del Sol's career with AEW came to an end, and this week, the masked wrestler revealed that he's not a fan of AEW's resident scumbag. Del Sol revealed that before he even got signed, MJF had a very disparaging remark for him backstage, but didn't reveal what was said, and added that MJF likely doesn't even remember it. Del Sol added that he and MJF were not each other's cup of tea, but said that MJF is insanely talented, even if the pair will likely not be working together anytime soon, if ever again. In June, WCW alum and one-time member of Raven's flock, Lodi, suffered a heart attack during a match on the independent scene that resulted in Lodi having major surgery. On the Developmentally Speaking podcast, Lodi explained that 4 days after the heart attack, he went in for a triple bypass, but doctors realized that they'd missed 2 blockages. This resulted in Lodi experiencing a quintuple bypass surgery on June 21st, but that won't stop Lodi from getting back in the ring. On the show, he explained that after having 3 neck surgeries before and being told in the past he'll never wrestle again, Lodi is eager as ever to get back in the ring when he can. Lodi also gushed about the talent of his opponent during the heart attack, saying that Lucky Ali should be wrestling on TV, and predicted that he will be soon enough. Lodi doesn't plan on taking bookings until January of next year, but despite his heart attack and quintuple bypass, he's not afraid to step back in the ring. In WWE, there's been no shortage of members of the NYE wrestling family to appear on TV, but one name fans may not be familiar with is Jeremiah Fatu. One of the many sons of Rikishi, this brother of Jimmy, Jay, and Solo Sikoa has actually appeared on WWE TV during a Christmas 1997 edition of Raw, which is remembered as the night Stone Cold stunned Santa. When an image of the young Jeremiah recently went viral on social media, fans had a field day, with some saying that he more resembled AJ Lee. Despite making this early appearance, Jeremiah opted not to join his brothers by joining WWE, but we imagine this photo still comes up during family reunions.